Welcome back to another episode of Leading Crypto on this glorious TA Tuesday here. I'm CVO. I'm joined always by the handsome, glorious, bearded Magic Internet Money, the thickest mustache in the other side of the world here, coming to you live from the Prince of Dubai, Burr Milk, aka Burr Max, aka Mustache on Point. We're going to be covering a good slew of things today, right? So yesterday we had some technical difficulties, so apologize for not being able to do our normal stream. But we did come into a pretty big pivotal moment in time for the traditional markets, which we're going to cover today. Going to take a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, SPX, as well as the DXY. And we're going to take a look at the worst case scenario for Cardano. So for anybody that's out there just thinking that Cardano has to only go up, along with a bunch of other altcoins, we're going to take a look at what the devil's basement would have in store, so to speak. So if that sounds interesting to you, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. We're going to jump right into it. So most important fact and most important question, we'll have to go to Magic Internet Money. We're going to have to see how it is over there in Kansas City today. Is it a brisk 10 degrees or are you picking up the dog poop?
I'll pick the dog poop up today. It's not that bad. It's like 30, but the wind is blowing like 25, 30 miles an hour. So it kind of shits on the good weather that we got. But
the neighbors are like the feds, man. They stay watching. I know.
Dude, they don't pick their poop up. Are you kidding me? Like I'm not going to get into it on stream. We'll talk about it. They don't pick up after their dogs. Like I'm the only one who does it. I'm pretty sure. So.
Oh God. To the charts.
Right, to the charts, guys. So DXY, we've been talking about this area of support. If you guys know, I was looking at this as a harmonic here, which technically is completed. We did one thing though, and we talked about this where we had front run the timing aspect of things here. And am I on the right? Yeah. We'd front run the timing aspect of things, and you can see that your 1-to-1 in time is now here, and we took the low. You swung failure low just barely. If you were paying attention to any of the dubious things that I had been posting prior to this, I guess, you also had the speculation of a Gartley. And so I had never actually moved the B point because that's where this is coming in at. So now we can actually say this is the completed harmonic. It's still very valid. It's actually more valid now because of the timing aspect. And we can, I wouldn't say get rid of it, but we can start working off of this and now move this down and adjust some of the things that we're looking at. So still looking at bounce territory for the DXY, which doesn't bode well for traditional markets, really. If you were to take a look at this from A to D, or C to D, excuse me, on this BAT, right? So that's all we're doing here is we're just taking the pivot points from C to D, and we're going to work out the fib retracements. Technically, you want to be around the 0.5 for this next one, or the B leg, which is coming in right here. So if you recall, this is your B leg that comes in right here. So we'll get rid of that. And you can see that gives you a nice box here, a window between 110 and like 110.925, give or take. That would be the target. Any triggers for that are going to be basically getting above 106.96, and then you've got like a local high here right around like 107.69. But realistically, if you start living above this level, I would expect to see the back test into this region, which is what a back test of our yearly regression. So this is a year-long regression that we've been tracking for all of 2022, and you'd be back testing it, a nice timing on it as well. I believe it is right here, and looking for this to complete in a similar fashion of a 1-to-1, which you can see X to B. So that pivot point actually played out really, really nice. So I'd be looking for this to complete all the way out in May of 2023, which is a lot of people think that is where Bitcoin is going to bottom, is in the summer of 2023, potentially, if we were to continue downwards, right? So this would be a really interesting thing to see. This would imply that we're going to get a significant rally this whole move down. So maybe a bear market rally in our future. But the SPX, this was what we were looking at on the SPX. This technically is complete. You can see that you only hit the 841, which is pretty close to the 886. That's what you're looking for on a shark. But let's get rid of this guy real quick. This could have extended all the way up to here, technically, and been perfectly valid because you're still within a 2.24 expansion and a 1.133. But you came to here. And so the fib time kind of played out and did its thing. You got your nice dump on the, I call it Corona time because it's based off Corona distribution. So you've got pivot point 1, 2, 3, and pivot point 4. So The real question is now how do we find a target for something like this? And you can see I was already working up fibs there. The 0.5 is what you're going to be looking for on the SPX. And that's also going to be coinciding with the Q3 and 2021 open. And you also have this B-leg pivot here. So again, a structural pivot lined up with nice Fibonacci zones. You could very easily just say this is probably going to be my target right here, and I'll get rid of some of these boxes as they're just not necessary. You could say that you want to see this zone holding, and you could probably move this up to the Q4 and just, it's a pretty broad zone at that point between 37, what is this, 37.64 up to 38.31, so a nice $70 window. But if someone were to have taken this short after this swing fail on the fib time, you'd be looking to hold it probably to these levels if you were looking for like a swing trade, for instance. So that's how you can kind of plan those things out. And as always, remember the trend, and the trend that we are in is thus, and you can see that we've come into our yearly regression on this one as well, getting things very, very nicely, getting the pivot points. You're now hitting a high, you're hitting a nice Fibonacci time pivot and coming back into your regression. So seeing this 0.5 maybe lower isn't out of the question at all. You could see a nice move down that, I guess, after this, bear market rally there. How does this carry over to Bitcoin? Well, pretty simple. Bitcoin is a very, very simple chart right now. It's been fairly boring. You can see that you're still holding the point of control here largely as a resistance, and that's where we wicked up to today. You got a 40 tick there right around like 16.5 and some change. So it was also your local gold pocket, right? This is what you were coming into. You can see that if we extend this over, and I'll clean up the 0.5 here, we just don't need it anymore. Since we're not talking about a shark, you can see there's your gold pocket. There's your point of control. You're back testing it. And now you're looking to see, are you going to hold these weekly pivots in this weekly level here at 16,270 as support? If you don't, one would think you're going to fill in this inefficiency here and come back to the daily range lows. The only thing that would change my mind on this is if price A finds support right here and bounces, or B, you start living above these local highs. And I'll show you guys what I showed the group a little while back. This is going to be a very easy way to find the local highs. You can see this is where we actually came down to right here, but you're basically marking off your daily swing fails right here. And you're just saying this is more of a zone between 16,738 and 16,909. Got to have that as support. If so, I expect to see 17.6, which is also our Q2 low from back here in the prior range. And then we can start talking about interesting things like, is this more of a rally? Are we going to see the, point of control up here around 19,150 to that 19,411 monthly level? That discussion can be had as soon as we start flipping this to support, and then obviously the next leg up to 17.5. But for me, you guys know how I had this drawn out. If you're in the group, this was really easy to spot. You had two triangles at play, right? You're basically playing the higher time frame descending triangle, and you had this like lower time frame symmetrical for a little bit. We don't do a lot of pattern trading, but sometimes it's nice to get a good view of just the structure. And so for right now, that's what I'd be looking for. And if there was to be any kind of a further move down, I can't remember if it's this. No, it's not this one. I think the timing I was looking for was on this. Called it not the dumpster crab, but this would be something that could span out a little ways still. So you could see this taking its time to get down to this like 13,000 to 13,880 level and complete this pattern. So that's really all I've got. The only thing that changes my mind is getting back above this box and then flipping 17.5 to 17.6. That would change my mind on what's going on right here. But until then, there's no real reason to get excited, because we've seen rallies come and go, right? Let's keep that in mind. Rallies come and go, guys. And until we actually start breaking back inside an old range, which for all intents and purposes does kind of say that if we can hold 17.5 here as support for an extended period of time, like a monthly closure, for instance, yeah, I'd be probably more in the camp of maybe we should be looking at this as a different rally versus just a, kind of a quick move up just to short it, So that's really all I've got on Bitcoin. Pretty simple stuff.
Man, don't bring any of those dumpster crabs to Florida, sir. Got the stash laugh. Nice. You ready, Max?
See me do it, put me on the big screen, always. Right. So I'm going to go over a bit of price action from yesterday. I'm going to cover an interesting thing that unfortunately, the trade really came a bit late. Well, it came in night for me. I'm not really awake at this period of time, but interesting thing to spot, okay? And we can all learn something here. So looking at yesterday's order flow, you had two sweet trades. The day was very boring. It was very long, but right at the end of the day, we were all given, well, for me, it was probably the morning for you guys, but you were all given two very sweet, very easy trades. Swing failure patterns, the easiest ones there is. And they were very good, very easy to trade. You had solid buybacks on both of the, solid buyback on this one, and a ton of shorting entered at this one. And this is the interesting thing, okay? Looking at this price action here, look at the huge increase in open interest on the huge decline in delta. So if you zoom in, we've got positive open interest on a negative 11 million, positive open interest on a -5, -4, -3, all of these on increase in open interest. That is a ton of shorts. That's tons of shorts. And what did they do? They didn't really do anything. They were just, the price failed to break down to the lows. So you can identify, okay, this level, there is a ton of shorts. No, it doesn't offer you a trade, but we were certainly giving them. Where were we giving them? Now, this is going to mess up my chart a little bit because it always does when you put the mark levels on. But you can see here at the previous day value area low, where it also had a golden pocket. If I've got that somewhere, it's here. Pull it from here to there. It's awful on this thing. Golden pocket, previous day value area low, easy trade setup. Stop loss goes below the low. You had a volume spike down here, and you got buying balances. Granted, the order flow wasn't perfect, but you got the delta switch up that we're always looking for. So with those two things, the trade setup and the fact you got a buy up, it really was a good trade. And the fact that you've identified there's a ton of shorts here, that when you get above this price action, it's going to do what it did. It's going to go and take the high and force them shorts out. Another interesting thing, let me hide the marked, is the open interest on the rise. Okay, stagnant. Delta had a huge increase, and yet we've had stagnant open interest. Now, why is this interesting? Well, we've identified there's a ton of shorts here, and on a rise, we've not really had a sharp decrease in open interest. Okay. You've had liquidations here. You can spot the liquidations. These are people getting wrecked. That's 14K, that's 10K, 15K. Granted, that's people straight up getting liquidated with 100x leverage. But there's liquidations here. And what was the largest drop off we had in open interest? 1.7 million. Something fishy is going on because you've had a huge increase in delta, and the open interest has stayed flat. So arguably positions changing hands, which is quite important considering where we are if someone's building a big short up here. Entries, we were given a swing failure pattern of the London high. I will admit I did not take this. It was not what I was looking for. We were all looking for a liquidity area touch higher, but looking at it from an order flow standpoint, it really wasn't a good swing failure pattern. You didn't have any shorts really pile in until, a couple candles had passed. You had no positions changing hands. You had no trap traders. The only way really could have identified it is on the fact that compared to previous attempts of breaking the high, it was really low volume, which it is an iffy at best, but it's a good way to know that this isn't going to be the one that you break out on. But I was keen to get those higher areas, so I was waiting it. But later on, we were given a setup. Why were we given a setup? Well, you had some delta increasing at this point with open interest increasing. So that's longs coming into the market and failing to break as high. So easy CVD divergence trade. I'll be honest, I only entered at this point here when we broke down. The reason being is you don't want to trade against positions opening when when they're not underwater, because delta is effectively, it's a leading indicator effectively. So when you can see delta coming in, delta normally moves with the trend. So if you've got delta increasing with the trend and open interest increasing with the trend, it's a strong trend. When you've got delta increasing, open interest increasing, yet the places, when the price isn't doing anything, okay, there's positions trying to get there. And the reason you can't really instantly jump into a trade on that type of delta is because, well, it's only going to take one candle for whoever's holding you down to just their position to be gone, and then price jumps up higher. So you really have to wait for this particular bearish divergence for price to then push these longs that have entered here underwater. And they did. Take profit was the VWAP, very nice, easy one, quick one. You're not going to want to sit in. I don't put too much faith in them type of trades, but it offered one. I was begging for a trade at this point in the day, and quick scalp. Now, where am I looking for this to go? Magic, brushed on this earlier. Now let me hide this because that was for the golden pocket that we went over. And we were all looking for this area in the group. You had a weekly naked point of control here, golden pocket here, and the area I was saying we were looking for before is the liquidity area from the weekend, from Sunday actually, just here where we've had all these highs. There'll be some liquidity above that, but we didn't get that. We rejected at this level. Where I'm really looking to take this now is, well, ideally the weekly and the golden pocket, and then I can reassess because you're closing some 50-minute PVAs there. Granted, the lowest PVA is down here. I'm not really, that one's already closed, which could be hit with a big wick down. But the fact you've got the previous value area high here, the weekly here, the golden pocket here, it's a valid setup. So I'm going to be looking for this area when we get there. But I will be cautious because don't forget the fact we've had a huge rise here. I say huge for what we've been getting. We've had a rise here on stagnant open interest and increasing delta. So I will be cautious with that trade, maybe use less position size. But yeah, that's all I've actually got. There's no there's no single prints or anything of that nature to talk about. So yeah, pretty quick one. I say pretty quick, I've probably quite a while. But yeah, hopefully you guys found that somewhat educational.
Always, senor.
I did find it educational. Thank you.
Thank you for your services rendered, Mr. Max. All right. Taking a look at Ethereum in the exact same spot we've been in since forever. Okay, so just want to point out, right, this is the higher time frame range. Been, on about, living within, swing trade, mid to long term ideas, live within this region. Obviously, there's a shorter term, lower time frame, intraday moves that we cover quite often. But for the overall here, we're still living below this Q2 22 POC, right? So the overall highest volume traded for Q2 of this year. I bring this up not only because it's the only relevant area, but it still is getting the business quite well, as you can see, right? So for the, let's see, almost last 9 months, or going, I guess, on 6 months here. Sorry, 9 months if you include the entire quarter. But it's just very relevant as far as support and resistance would go, just on a basic idea here, right? So that does come in at basically 1221. Been on about that level for quite some time. We could dissect this a little bit more and start adding on some other high time frame areas in here, but at the moment you are below all major areas in that regard. So going all the way through to even this entire range that we've been in for quite some time. So still really anticipating these lower levels to be met here in the short term. And that really doesn't change until we start living above. I mean, you've seen how we lived quite heavily above this region for a while, right? We had some nice upward movement. And now we've been, consistently living below. So 4-hour time frame, but if you went to the dailies, obviously we've been pretty much below this region since almost 2 weeks now. And got the untapped daily down here. Once again, this is the Coinbase chart, so it does fluctuate a little bit here. You got 1,031 on Bybit, it's 1,038. Realistically, I'm looking for at least a swing fail of these lows in general, right? Coming down to the 886, which is like 1,009. So in that like $40 window right here, would be something to really look for a reaction for in the short term. And then you got the overall low back here at 880, and then lose that, and then it's devil's basement time, right? Those would be the downside areas. And then as far as upside, they still remain the same. You really want to clear this Q222, right? 1221. Got areas here at 1300 as well. You got the quarterly VWAP at 1350. And then if you really want to get comfortable with it, you want to start living back above 1460, right? And then we can start challenging into the untapped weekly, the untapped monthly, rotate this range in full up to upwards of 2400. These are your little lines in the sand, right? So zooming this in a little bit more now and kind of taking a look at the shorter, lower time frame here. Brought this up on the members only market update, right? We were looking at the previous week range here when we were up in this region, offered a really nice short right into the weekly key level, right? So if you kick that on, it was essentially right here at about 1160, 6% move, nice, right? And then from there, you had your point of control back was another target to the upside, and then back to the value area high. So essentially, you've done nothing here, but just really just running through the range here, and we're getting rejection once again at this previous week high. So note that it comes in right at that point of control that we were just discussing a moment ago, 1224, 1222, 1221 area. So, short term, once again, get back above this region. We start looking up. Otherwise, you are running into resistance on low time frame, high time frame, medium time frame. And until that is flipped, you would have to imagine that we're going to probably see a pullback once again, right? So we got the overall low here for the previous week comes in right at this untapped daily. This is not the one we were talking about here. This is a key level. So this is from like 2 weeks ago. Basically, I think it's actually Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So 1 week ago, sorry. And yeah, that comes in right at the low. You'll lose that, flip that. I would imagine we'd actually finally make our way down in this region. But those are the two areas at the moment, right? It's flip this region, probably see another move to the upside here. Otherwise, do realize we're at resistance and anticipate a move to the downside here. So golden pocket. Let's just see where that lines up. Basically, the value area low as well from the recent low to high. So another little confluence there, a little wick down in this region, and we can honestly just kind of run through here for a little bit. So in the short term, that's what I'd be looking for out of ETH. Obviously, the rest of the market would follow suit in some regard, and see how things kind of play out. Did want to take a look at. Let me see here. I know I said Cardano, which we will look at Cardano, but Solana is another one, right? So by no means am I a Solana maxi, but just there's opportunities at hand here, and especially when the news is the worst, right? Even though I do think that Solana has a lot more downside to go overall, short term, right? We got our developing month right here, and you can see that obviously we're diddling in the middle once again. You got this quarterly key level, which is one thing that we've been, discussing for the last few weeks here. Comes in pretty much at the point of control. So, coming back and tagging this region, taking it over, claiming it, flipping to support, however you want to consider, would be something to look for. You got the daily level up here, and then now we've got actually the range high aligning with the untapped weekly that I've been looking for. So, very short-term play once again. This is, from point of control up, and this is a spot idea. I wouldn't go leverage on this. This is something that, even if maybe you don't even want to touch it at all, but for me, this is a, short-term move that I'm paying attention for. Nice 30% move. And if you're not even going to get considered or involved around these regions, I'd probably be looking actually to take a short opportunity around this region as well if we make it there, about $20. But in the grand scheme of things, over time, if we start losing the area that we're in, do want to point out that we have the global point of control, something, kind of keep aware of, because we are back within the global range here, right? Fell back into this region over here, right? You got the run up, back now inside this range, right? As you can see there, got the back test, and now we're just making our way down, right? So our natural target is going to be that point of control. That's all the way down to 281. Over time, obviously, this has been, over a year so far. Could this be in 6-8 months, whatever it could be? Could it never happen? Also, yes. So just something to be aware of, right? Once again, kind of comes down to, your mid to long-term ideas, your short-term ideas, and how they can kind of live and coincide, side by side. But that's what I'd be looking for Solana. No news needed, right? I'm sure that the news will keep you blindsided and frantic and very emotional. The news is really what makes people emotional. I've really come to realize that. It's going to make you bag hold at the top. It's going to make you sell the bag at the bottom every single time. If that's just I guess my opinion at this point, but it's a very interesting concept to be seen. Who's chiming in?
Solana to zero.
Solana to zero. That's it. Matt, if Magic doesn't have an alert on his chart,
I do actually.
Is that at 281 or 0?
Mm-hmm. It's at 281.
Heard. All right, where are we going here? Cardano. So we talk a lot about the devil's basement levels, right? So those are the worst case scenario, which realistically, they could always get worse. But in the short term, once again, kind of compartmentalizing here, you got short-term opportunity, and then you got, the higher time frame, big. If you're going to DCA, you really want to look for some major areas, not just DCA every pullback, right? Because more than likely, most people don't have any more money at this point. I know a lot of people like to say, "Oh, I'm buying," but there's unless you're buying $50 a day, which I mean is possible, I guess, or $50 a week or a paycheck. I would imagine most people go all in on some of these bigger dips we've had, and then they don't have anything to buy anything lower. So, me, Magic, I'm sure Max has had a couple stories, but we've all lived through the times where, XRP is a really good example, ran it up to $3 and ran all the way down to 11 cents. And it took a long time to get there. And most people probably bought in at like $1.80 and back to 70 cents. And then, you just kept going lower. So the devil's basement ideas are meant to be, major areas where maybe they're not the exact low, but they're definitely better areas than just blindly DCAing, right? And if we don't get them, then whatever, you want to look for your validations and your invalidations on the way up to, identify the trend has changed, and then you make your move from there. Short term, however, got a key level we're sitting on basically right now. Not to say this is an area to just blindly buy because we are pretty much in no man's land, right? So the overall area that I would feel comfortable seeing Cardano reclaim, I talked about it multiple times, right? It's going to be basically all the way back up here, like 41.5 cents. In a short-term idea here, right? We do have, basically our developing month here. So we are at the low of that. Granted, this is dynamic. This is, can change. Does only have like 1 day left, but you're at the low of that right now. So, taking a little risk here, I guess, somebody could, but for me, I really wouldn't mess around with it until we are back above, essentially that 41.5 cents. We could very well just get a nice little range rotation through here from like 30 cents all the way back up to 37. Essentially, you would be doing nothing at that point. You'd run right into your quarterly VWAP right here as resistance. You'd be running right into the value area high here on your monthly, and then could just very well just dump out of it. So short term, sure, really short scalp idea, I guess, or short term play is in the mix. Stop loss below the low. But otherwise, we're looking for the reclaim of 41.5 cents for a more more confirmation, daily closes, things of that nature. You probably start seeing something like this, right, where you'd start making lower highs, higher lows and higher highs, get that reversal in trend, and obviously we'd be paying attention for Bitcoin and Ethereum at the same token. So as far as what the worst case scenario would go, or would be, we've discussed it on this channel a couple of times, just kind of in passing, but I did want to kind of highlight it today just because. If we get down to these are, for me, it's I wouldn't DCA again into Cardano until we hit these two. And that's kind of the idea here with the DCA. We discuss this all the time where, DCA is a really cliche, just something to cover yourself with being like, oh, this, you could DCA here if you'd want, but whatever. But it wouldn't, we're in no man's land, right? There's really no reason to until you get down to at least 13 cents. 14 cents, I suppose. You got an untapped yearly key level down here. So this is a high time frame average of price that was never back tested, and very, very high statistical hit rate on this, right? Not to say that we have to hit it, but a very high hit rate. So over time, at some point, it's likely that we do come back down to this region. Then you got the 6-month level down here as well, about 8 cents. So in this big window, these would be the two DCA areas for me. I think that Magic's levels probably agree to that as well. I think we've kind of talked about this one on like 2 or 3 streams ago where we kind of.
Yeah, they're pretty close. I got a level just before yours. I got the December 2020 MPOC at 15.7 cents, but otherwise 13.9 and 8.2 cents is marked.
Perfect. So 15.9. There you go. 3 areas. That would give a DCA average, probably in the 10 to 12 cent region, right, for those areas instead of whatever, anybody else has been looking for. Because once we really lost 41.5, which, I've covered this one on our channel in the group on Coffee and Crypto quite a bit with TA Tim before they kind of, made adjustments there. But 41.5 was the area for me. And then aside from that, there's short-term opportunities to be had intraday, right? These are nice moves here if you have a strategy in place and some really nice risk management. But otherwise, I'd be looking for these levels. So that's the devil's basement, right? So the reason we say stuff like that is because this would be a drastic move from where we are. This is another 50 to 70%. Terminal shakeout, right, as Magic likes to call it, because this would essentially be putting you back all the way to like 2017 lows almost. I mean, I know we were like at 3 cents, so I guess that 4 cent mark would be
what the kids are calling maximum riz.
Maximum riz.
Yep, I think that's what the kids call it. But yeah, I mean, it would be unfortunate. I'm sure there's a lot of bag holders out there, unfortunately, but it is what it is.
Yeah. But yeah, I just want to cover that one. Once again, not saying we have to go there, not saying we have to go there right now either. We could very well run it back, get a retest of 41.5 and then come down. It's very much a ongoing strategy where you have to kind of keep up with the market, see if we start living above some of these major areas, reclaim some of these things. Once again, the news, take it for what it's worth. We cover the news as much as we can on this channel, here and there. We really stick to more things of like policy, right? Things of like that are going to affect fiscal policy essentially. But anything with like Hoskinson or, the whatever merges or, you got forks and, any of the news that comes out for projects like Cardano and this and that. To get people excited. They tend to come out right before a move does happen, a little pump. I think we just saw something recently with XRP where all you did was rotate range. And there was, rumors of the SEC lifting a case or this or that. And now we run the risk of basically running that range all the way back down. And everybody that bought the hype on that news event, literally just bought the high. You have something very similar to this where you run it back up 41.5 cents. Nothing has happened. All you're doing is back testing, previous resistance. Maybe we get a new announcement out of Cardano, and then all you're doing is basically buying the high once again. So just really having that strategy, understanding where you are on the chart, mapping out your levels, understanding your own risk and your own ability to pay attention to these markets, right? If you can't be at the computer all the time, I mean, not even we can, you got to understand that maybe you're just wanting to look for some lower areas here, right? So if you want to DCA where you are now and then look for that 15 cent mark if we get it, and maybe 13 if we get it, and so on and so forth, and then you're looking to hold for years, that is something you kind of have to decide for yourself. But that's about enough out of my 2 cents here. Do you guys have anything to add before we finish in here?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. We've covered quite a bit. There's what we need. A little long.
Sorry.
Long and thin gets it in mustache by Max.
Long and thin gets it in, boys and girls.
I knew it was coming.
He's speechless.
The rise up then was on Bitcoin, was on increasing open interest. But if we lose the VWAP, all the guys that entered long are trapped. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, once again, we do this Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to tune in, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy our content. It's very highly TA based. We do, sprinkle in some news when we can. We have a couple of guests on. If you haven't seen our special guest, Kenneth Suna from, I think 5 days ago here, be sure to give that a check.
That was a great episode.
Yeah, really great insight. Underviewed in my opinion. So I mean, this is some gold here as far as diversifying your portfolio across all assets into the traditional market, not only just crypto, but obviously it does trickle over to that as well. This is somebody who has lived off of his investments for over a decade. if not 2, and doesn't even actively trade. He pulls off dividends. He pulls off of
he does trade now a little bit more. He said he's gotten more into day trading lately because the market's been so volatile, but I don't think that make or breaks his budgeting.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. We also have a really nice interview with Gareth Soloway down here as well. Give that one a view.
Create a playlist for when we have guests.
Yeah,
I'm sure we'll be having a couple on here in the near future. We'll definitely have Kenneth on again. And that's an endless conversation.
The Prince of Dubai right there with Seth Rogen and Tom Cruise. That was a good episode.
That was a good one.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world. And until next time, we'll see you. If you are interested in joining the Leading Crypto Discord server and have full access to all of our analysis, trading strategies, our 14 video academy that goes over step-by-step all the tools that we use every single day, that information is below. You can also join the group as for free as well, and just kind of come into the general chat, ask us questions, make some, recommendations if you'd like to see something specific for a video request, I suppose, better word for that. And other than that, we'll see you all in the next video, everybody. Have a great day.